Geno Auriemma making some big offers for the class of 2026. You're locked on.
You are Locked On UConn, your daily podcast on the UConn Huskies. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks for making Locked On UConn your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Before we dive into today's show, I'd like to take a quick moment to ask for a small favor. If you're enjoying the content, please take a second to subscribe to the YouTube channel and follow wherever you listen to audio versions of the podcast. It helps the show grow, and I genuinely appreciate the support. Every follow, subscription, download not only helps build our Locked On UConn community, but also generates more revenue for UConn NIL because we give 10% of our revenue to Bleeding Blue for Good. We also take 10% and donate revenue to Husky Ticket Project. I'm a proud partner with them. We help send tickets to kids in underserved communities, and it makes a real difference. Love that organization. So thank you for being a part of this journey with me and for making Locked On UConn your first listen every day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Place your first $5 bet, and you'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. Okay, so UConn women are not only in the mix for signees and talents in the 2025 class. We got some top talent and recruiting spotlights for the 26 class, and let's dive right in. Geno and his staff are aiming to make a big splash. Although the Huskies haven't secured a commitment for the 2026 class yet, they're making serious moves to bring top talent to stores. Just recently, UConn extended an offer to Kate Harpring, currently ranked as the number 2 player in the class. This is a huge offer, and here's why it matters. Kate Harpring, she's a 5'11" guard out of Atlanta, playing at Marist School. And let's just say her sophomore season stats speak for themselves. She's averaging 27.8 points per game, 7.8 rebounds, leading her team to a Class 6A state championship. She didn't just play well, she dominated. Harpring also earned Naismith High School honorable mention honors, All-American, and really elevated her game over the summer. She won the MVP of Overtime Select after leading her team to a championship last month. When you look at her versatility and her ability to slash to the rim, pressure opponents defensively on the ball, and her increasing confidence in her three-point shot, and you see the makings of a complete player who could fit perfectly into UConn's system. One thing that stands out is her competitiveness and IQ on the floor. She's not just out there to score and kind of be a high school kid and kind of be crazy out there. She's reading defenses. She's finding passing lanes, playing like a real pro at such a young age, and she's rebounding extremely well, especially for a guard. She's a high-energy player who constantly is involved, which is exactly the kind of intensity UConn loves. And frankly, I think it's lacked over the last couple of years. Why is this such a big deal for UConn? Harpring is considering powerhouse programs like Notre Dame, LSU, and Duke. She also holds offers from schools like South Carolina, Tennessee, and Louisville. None of these recruiting battles lately are easy, right? But UConn is clearly investing in getting top talent and making their presence known among the top-ranked recruits, basically telling them, Geno and the staff, we're not going anywhere. We got a big class that we're going to talk about in the second segment that I feel like we're going to land at least one more of those. And it's not just Harpring they're after. UConn is targeting other elite players, including Sanaya Hall, the number 1 recruit in the class, Jersey Robinson, number 3, Olivia Vukosa, number 4. Those are some names we could see visiting stores in the upcoming months. And don't forget, UConn has 3 open scholarships for 26-27. That means they have the flexibility to bring in not just 1 or 2, but potentially a group of high-impact players who could come in and make a difference from day one. With the offer to Harpring, UConn is sending a clear message. They're committed to building a dominant program outside of just what they've done in the past. And I think that's something that I really am so impressed with about Geno and Kristen Daly and the rest of his staff, which is, they could sit back on their laurels. They've won 11 championships. They have players in the pros. You got Geno going to see Fee and Stewie in the W finals. A myriad of other players about to be in the WNBA with Paige and AZ. They don't need to keep pushing. So I think I've seen a clip of Geno talking about how he gave Dan Hurley some advice after he won right before he won the first national championship, which is when you win, it's either going to be the best day of your life or the worst day of your life. And it's because you're going to be kind of chasing that insatiable feeling of winning another title forever. So I wonder if he still feels like that. I think that's something that it's an interesting outlook of things. When you reach that mountaintop, nothing truly changes about who you are. And I think for Geno, it's one of those things where he's such a interesting figure, where he always has a great soundbite, but he always is kind of thinking about things from a different perspective from most people, like his take on NIL and others. So with recruiting in respect, I do feel like he's got to show, because he's an older man, that he still has the juice to get out there and meet these players and get them on campus and showing what UConn basketball is all about. So keep an eye out on that 2026 class. I think the Huskies are going to have players who could shape the future of the program beyond his tenure, and getting talent like Harpring would set a strong foundation for what's to come. Before we get ahead of ourselves, let's look at what stands for next year's class and where the updates are on that coming up after this. Hey, UConn fans, it's time to recognize the Roy Player of the Week. So far this season, we pulled over $20,000 to support players on Roy. Hey, UConn fans, it's time to recognize the Roy Player of the Week. So far this season, we pulled over $20,000 to support players on Roy. Micro deposits lead to massive change. With the Roy app, you can direct your support to the athletes you love, ensuring all funds go to the specific player you choose. Unlike collectives, Roy shows you exactly where your support is going, and you even receive exclusive content to like personal videos and updates after the season. The best part, it's risk-free. If the athlete transfers or doesn't deliver the content, you get your money back. This week, I'm supporting Darrell Robinson, UConn football running back. I just pitched in $100. I'd love for you to join me. Even $10 makes a difference. So let's show Darrell some love and keep him connected to our school. Remember, pay today, celebrate tomorrow. Your support sets your team up for success. Plus, don't miss out on Roy's exciting giveaway. 2 tickets to a game in November. Just download Roy, create an account, and use the referral code Locked On, and you're entered. Already on Roy? Any contribution to an athlete's campaign gets you entered automatically. No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited. Download Roy now and join the NIL game with no subscriptions, no fees, and be sure to check us out on Instagram, Facebook, and X at return_Roy on you _ on you for more info. Roy, support the players, change the game. All right, you're back on Locked On UConn. That was a recording I did last night, but it's the same ad, so we ran it again. I don't know if anyone that watches this, and we're talking about the UConn women in the recruiting class, if you're interested in that stuff, I'm pretty sure right now, if they aren't active, you can give to the UConn women in a micro deposit in that Roy app, Return on You. Find it in all your applications on either the Google Play Store or on Apple. iTunes. I think you can definitely start doing that. I think they started with football. Now they're doing men's and women's basketball, and then it may go into like volleyball and baseball. So stay tuned. If you have certain players that you enjoy more than others, specifically that are your favorite players, that happens all the time. Give them a little love, and it's kind of like maybe you get a thank you video or something like that. So anyway, just something to think about. But the 25 class is not signed already, but we already have some commitments. I'm going to go from, I wouldn't say best to worst or anything like that. The order really doesn't matter, but I'm going to start with Blanca Quinonez. She's a wing. She's originally from Ecuador. Quinonez is currently playing professionally in Italy's Series A1. We've done a whole entire story on her, which has given her really kind of this valuable experience at a high-level competition. She's known for her athleticism, which is freakish, defensive skills, and scoring ability. Absolutely the type of player that you want on your team. Positional versatility, across the board. She is versatile, excels in transition. We had Alfred Cornett on, who works for her Hoop Stats. God, I can't talk today. And he does breakdowns for international players. And he really talked about how she does things on the wing that you rarely see at the high school level, or at that age, because she's not really, I mean, she's in the pros essentially in Italy. And so her bringing that to the States and that to UConn is really going to give some edge. Sorry, having a little indigestion, so I apologize. That wasn't me. I'm not dying on the podcast, I promise you. But anyway, I do think Blanca is by far the best of this bunch in terms of sheer athleticism, skill set, the ability to do multiple things on the floor. She's incredible. She has an incredibly solid frame. She's going to add depth to UConn's wing rotation. Her and Sarah Strong together, I think, is going to be just like a dream come true for Geno. And I think she'll contribute right away, particularly on the defensive side and getting out in transition. And then there's Gandy Malou-Mamel. We're still trying to work to get her on, at least in her or Kieran Quinn, to come in here. She's originally from Ireland, but currently resides in New Jersey, standing at 6'5". She's an athletic post player with a tremendous upside and ceiling, considering she's only been playing basketball since the age of 12. She's got a really interesting playing style. It's physical, but she also has some finesse and a big presence in the paint, and has shown really strong potential as a rebounder and an interior defender. Her agility and size makes her a challenging matchup for opposing forwards. I look for her to kind of tandem with Jana, and I think that's going to be a phenomenal duo there. We really haven't had multiple 6'5" players at once on the team in a while, and I think that can play. I think for her, the sky is really the limit. So Malou-Mamel is a bit of a raw talent, but I think her size and athleticism could make her a valuable asset for UConn in the long run. She's expected to develop further under Geno, and I think especially on offense, because I think you could probably plug her in right away as a defender at this level, but you're probably not going to get a lot from her offensively. Maybe putbacks, tap outs, things of that nature, but you can't really I don't think you can run an offense through Gandy right now, but we shall see, right? And then you have Kelis Fisher. She's a smaller guard, 5'9". She's originally from Maryland, now attending IMG Academy in Florida. She committed to UConn as a sophomore and is ranked on ESPN's 28th best player in her class. Her scoring prowess and all-around play have made her that key addition. She kind of reminds me a little bit of Caitlin Chen in the respect of she's going to be a little bit of everything. Playmaker, versatile on both ends of the court, scorer at heart, but anytime anyone says they're a scorer at heart, you know what they also love to do? Set their opponents up. Great court vision, good defensive instincts. She's an all-around gym rat. If you ask anybody that's a big time player, you get just as much joy making a great pass, at least to a bucket, than you do when you set yourself up, because that's the beauty of basketball. So I think the outlook for Fisher is she's expected to add some depth to UConn's backcourt, providing scoring and defensive support. Obviously we're going to lose Paige. I know she has a year of eligibility, and I think AZ's going too. I think once the two of them are gone, it's like Caitlin Chen will be gone because obviously she's a grad student. Who has to step up? The guys, the freshmen right now, and then the freshmen that are coming in next season. So and obviously and Ashlyn Shade and KK Arnold as well. So it's kind of like a nice pecking order where they're going to have some different lineup exchanges. And I think she's going to be a somewhat significant contributor. I don't know if she's going to start right away because there's a lot of people in the way, but that's what competition is for. We'll see. And then UConn's remaining top targets for 25 class. We've talked about her as Laura Sumfai. She's from Europe. Sumfai is actually, I don't feel like isn't she from Australia? Because I put in my notes that she's from Europe, and then I had to, now I'm questioning myself. So while I have the use of my pesky computer here, why don't we look that up so I don't get multiple people in my inbox in my YouTube mentions saying that she's from Adelaide, Australia, because I knew she was. And 6'3", known for her skillful play, incredible basketball IQ. She visited UConn during the NCAA tournament and is highly touted. I think she was at first night as well. Let me check that. I do feel like I saw her there, or someone tweeted out that she was there. Let's go. First night, UConn. Could be wrong. No, she wasn't there. That's okay. But she's definitely on the board. She's a 6'3". She shoots it from deep. She's smooth. She's versatile. If you watch any of her clips, it looks like it kind of reminds me of if you watch, I'll use a woman and a man to kind of give you some idea depending on, what you watch. If you watch the W, she kind of gives me Stewie vibes where she can kind of play at her own pace, and and even if the opponent is guarding her well, she kind of keeps them on their hip, and she can kind of score at her own pace. She doesn't speed things up. She doesn't slow things down. It's her pace. And then on the men's side, I think I look at like a Luka Doncic style where he basically can kind of go at any pace. No one can speed him up. He dominates play on his own terms. And that's the type of player she is. I'm not saying she's either of those players, but that's how she plays. That's her playing style. She's athletic enough to defend multiple positions, but I think she can really kind of bring some of that Australian/European flair to UConn. So if they can get her commitment, I think it's between us and Stanford. I know her dad wants her to go to Stanford for academic reasons, so we shall see. I really think it could help balance inside-outside between her and Blanca, and then obviously Sarah. Those are in the mix right now. And then the other big one is Agat Maker. Apparently, she took a visit recently. I have heard absolutely nothing about that visit. I've asked around, really haven't got the answers that I typically get. So it's really just about, it's a wait and see with her. She does remind me of a South Carolina player just because of her makeup and how she goes about her business. I know she's narrowed her search down to South Carolina, UConn, I think Duke and Kentucky, but I think that's an uphill battle for us. If we got Agat, I think it would be dynamic between her, Sarah, Blanca. I mean, that's the beauty of Geno and his staff, is he typically gets these super classes that kind of all mix and mesh well together. So I think she would bring an immediate high impact scorer, high impact rebounder, versatile in each forward position. She'd complement UConn's roster really well. So we shall see. I think the outlook for the 2025 class is really strong, regardless of whether we get Maker or Sumfi. But if we got one or both of those, look out. That'll be the favorite team to win it all again next year, because the more talent you stack, the better off you are. When we return, Paige and AZ, both named to the Naismith Trophy Women's Player of the Year watch. It's an incredible honor. Let's talk about it. Hey, NFL fans, you can start the season with a big return on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. So when you get a hunch in the middle of a game, you can check out the latest stats or view live play-by-play and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets guaranteed. And when you place your first $5 bet, that's FanDuel.com. For all new customers, that's how you get started. Get those bonus bets. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. All right, you're back on Locked On UConn. Sorry for another recorded ad. So if you saw me wearing a different shirt and a different kind of overlay here, well, I recorded that last night. Same ad, same process. So thought it would make sense for us to do. So Paige and AZ both were named to the Naismith Award List watch. It's an incredible honor. Speaks to high expectations for both of these guys. I think for AZ, to be honest, it's more symbolic than anything, and I don't mean that as a disrespect, because I don't think AZ is expected to come back and play at that high a level just yet. She may be there by January. Hell, she may be there by December. I think the point is that because she's going to be on a pitch count, because she's going to be on a minutes restriction, I wouldn't get too excited about that part of it. But if we go back and start looking at Paige, she's no stranger to these accolades. She was the first freshman to win the Naismith Player of the Year award back in 2021. And she's been racking up honors ever since. It's what makes her so special is just not her scoring ability, but obviously what she does for her teammates, for the school itself. She is a phenomenal ambassador of the women's game. She's one of the most efficient shooters in the country, hitting 53% from the field, in a really impressive three-point shooter from range, 41.6 last year. Beyond the numbers, she's a game changer. She's a gamer, when Geno needed her to step up in the tournament last year because they had like 3 players available, joking around. She lifted her team not only with her play, but with her leadership. Like, hey, jump on my back for a piggyback ride. What's that song? It shows how old I am. But yeah, I think that's kind of her gift, is that people, when she speaks, people follow. And I think that's a big testament to who she is as a person. She's had a million setbacks, major injuries that have kept her off the court. And for much of her sophomore and junior years, it was kind of like a wash. So each time she returns, she's proven that she's at the top of her game. And after an ACL tear season ago, she bounced back, helped carry UConn to the Final Four. This year is obviously the redemption year. The Pagey Pythons, my man Big Larry calls her that. The Pagey, outworking everybody, and unanimous All-American, unanimous Big East Player of the Year, and leading potentially this team to a national title in another Naismith Trophy would totally be the icing on the cake. Then there's AZ. Again, talked about her. We've chronicled her in segments on this show about how she's gone through. I really like her approach, because she's gone through this, what she called trauma bonding with her teammates, because she was supposed to come here and be next, right? And she really hasn't been, and it's through no fault of her own. But once she's back fully healthy, I think she's going to have the ability to stretch the floor and provide UConn with that boost in a part of the season where they're going to probably play some tougher opponents. And just think about it from this perspective. We've talked about storylines for women's basketball this year. Can you name one other team that's going to add a top 5 WNBA draft pick to their team at full strength this season, mid-season? You can't. I think AZ is the secret weapon for this team and their national title hopes, and really kind of being what they want to be, because I think you're going to have players like Sarah Strong, Caitlin Chen, KK Arnold, Ashlyn Shade, and others, Ice Brady, Janelle Elfie, Ayanna Patterson, to name a few, that are always going to be there to kind of hold water for her. But once, and then I can't forget Caden Samuels, but once AZ is back and she's doesn't have a minutes restriction and she is at full strength, watch out. I think there could be another banner being hung up at stores, because AZ's that good when she's on. I've heard some people in the YouTube comments, she's a liability on defense, yada yada yada. Well, guess what? You can't be everything to everyone. AZ is what she needs to be for UConn, and she's literally a top 5 player in the game at the college level. So this has been another episode of Locked On UConn. I'm Mark Zanetto, asking you to stay locked on, stay connected, and to remember, it's not just about getting it done. It's about doing it in a way that it can't be done any better. That's our goal every day. Don't forget about it. Go Huskies.